Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Retold by Jenny Dooley.
Chapter 10. Justice is served. The next day the news of Nancy's murder was in all the newspapers. Everyone in London was talking about it, and everyone wanted the murderer to be caught. Mr. Brownlow and Rose read the news too, and felt very sad.
"Poor Nancy,"
said Rose, with tears in her eyes.
"She died because she wanted to help Oliver."
As soon as we have found Monks, we must look for Nancy's murderer.
They decided to send for Dr. Losberne and Harry Maylie, the two men they knew they could trust to help them. The doctor and Harry arrived that afternoon, and late in the evening they brought Monks to Mr. Brownlow's house. They took him to Mr. Brownlow's study and left the two men together. Monks was angry.
"You were my father's oldest friend. Why have you brought me here like a criminal?"
It's because of my friendship for your father that I brought you here, Edward Leaford. Yes, of course I know your real name. I know many other things too, about the gangs you belong to, and the trouble you have been in abroad. And don't forget, I was going to marry your father's sister, but she died. I know the sad story of your father's marriages too. After his first wife, your mother, died, he met a young woman and fell in love. Soon after this marriage, he had to go abroad suddenly, but before he left he gave me a picture of this girl and asked me to take care of her if anything happened to him. I still have the picture, and that's how I recognized Oliver. He looks exactly like his mother. Well, while your father was abroad, he got ill and died. When his wife heard the news, she was so upset she ran away. I couldn't find her, and so Oliver was born in the workhouse. Your father left his money to you and your half-brother, Oliver. I want to make sure you share the money with him.
You can't prove that Oliver is my half-brother.
Ah, but I can. I have spoken to Mr. Bumble, who is master of the workhouse where Oliver was born. He told me about the locket and ring. You can choose. Sign these papers to say that you will share your father's money with Oliver, or I will tell the police everything I know about you.
I've got friends who can help me to hide from the police, or I can go abroad. Why should I sign those papers?
I know who your friends are, thieves and murderers, and maybe I know something that you don't. The police arrested Fagin and Jack Dawkins today. Soon they will catch all the other members of the gang too. Then who will help you?
Monks turned pale.
If I call for the police now, you will get a fair trial, but we both know you will go to prison.
Monks walked angrily up and down the room. At last he spoke.
Very well. If I sign the papers, will I be free to go?
You have my word as a gentleman.
Monks was angry, but signed the papers and threw the pen down on the table. Then, with a curse, he walked out into the dark street.
Damn you all!
Mr. Brownlow picked up the papers.
Thanks to Nancy, Oliver is safe. And now we must hunt down her murderer.
When the police caught Fagin, Toby Crackit and Charlie Bates were with him, but they escaped up the chimney. Later that evening they were hiding in an old house near the river, in one of the dirtiest, poorest parts of the city. As they were looking out of a window, they suddenly saw a white dog with blood on its fur and feet.
"Bill's dog. Bill must be somewhere near."
"If he comes here, I won't help him,"
shouted Charlie.
"I'll call for the police."
A few minutes later someone knocked at the door. Toby opened it and Bill Sikes ran in. He looked sick and tired and sat down in a chair with the dog at his feet.
The police are after me with a crowd of people, but they didn't see me come in here. Can I stay and hide till they've gone?
"Monster! Murderer!"
shouted Charlie. Outside in the street there was a big crowd of people and policemen. Charlie opened the window and shouted loudly,
Help! Police! The murderer is here!
Bill pulled him away from the window and knocked him to the floor. At that moment there was a loud knock at the door.
This is the police! Open the door or we'll break it down!
Bill looked out of the window.
Toby, give me a rope and I'll climb out onto the roof and drop down into the river at the back of the house. They won't catch me.
He climbed out of the window and tied one end of the rope round the chimney. He was tying the other end round his chest when suddenly he gave a loud cry.
Ah! Oh no, the eyes. I can see Nancy's eyes.
He fell off the roof and the rope slipped up and tightened round his neck. Bill Sikes was dead. The dog howled and tried to reach his master. Fagin, that wicked old man with blood on his hands, had a fair trial, was found guilty and hanged. Monks escaped to America, soon spent all his money, and returned to a life of crime. He eventually died in prison. Charlie Bates decided an honest life was best and found a good job on a farm. Rose married Harry Maylie and Mrs. Maylie went to live with them in a little house in the country. Mr. Brownlow adopted Oliver and bought a house near their friends, the Maylies. When he told them the story of Oliver's parents, they all realised that Rose was in fact the sister of Oliver's mother, Agnes. So finally, Oliver found himself with a family he did not know he had and lived the rest of his life in happiness.